What's up, y'all? It's Dave from Kodawari Collective. We're back at it again with another install video. This time we're going to be working on the S2000. We're going to be installing this brand new 320mm MOMO Mod 78 steering wheel, along with a Works Bell Rapfix 2 quick release and a Works Bell short hub. We're not going to be installing the MOMO horn button. Instead, we're going to be installing this NSX horn button. All right, so we're going to start with this plate right here and the quick release. On all the quick releases from Works Bell, there is an indicator right here that marks the top position. So you want that to be at 12 o'clock facing you. So we're gonna run this bracket through, and then we're gonna set this point here a little over 5 at the 5 o'clock position. And then we're gonna connect the black wire directly onto the plate. And what I like to do is I like to get it out of the way so you can actually push it downwards like this, and you tuck the wires, and that pretty much sets up the quick release. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the horn button onto the MOMO wheel. Grab the horn button as well as the spacer that comes with the quick releases. The steering wheel will be sandwiched in between these two parts. There's a lip on this little spacer here. So that is actually going to be facing towards the sky. So you want the shorter end to be up and the longer end to be on the bottom. Now once you have the spacer in place of the wheel, take your horn button. As you can see here, these pins here can be pushed in, and there's a spring tension that holds these clips out. So you want to push that down when you install the horn button onto the center of the steering wheel. The spring up top goes in first, so you angle it towards the 12 o'clock position. Once you get it in, make sure again that this opening is at the 5 o'clock position. Hold it from the back, push the horn button in, and if you want to, you can still center it by rotating the horn button. Once you get that centered, that's it. All right, so now that we have the horn button attached to the steering wheel, I'm gonna go ahead and install the wiring harness. So the black wire again goes to the plate here, and this red wire goes onto the horn button connector. So you can go ahead and attach that. So once you have that red wire connected, what you wanna do is look for the 12 o'clock marker on the quick release, and then you want to adjust it so that the plate with the bracket sits at 5 o'clock. And then you can go ahead and rest this on top, like that. Make sure you don't pinch any wires. This might be a bit tricky because a bit of force is needed to hold everything in place. So then once you have it centered in position, you can go ahead and get the bolts for the steering wheel. It should look somewhat like this. Always start a few threads by hand. Make sure it's grabbing before you fully tighten them down. It's easier to work on the bench so you don't lose parts. Pre-installing the wheel onto the quick release is easier off the car than doing it in the vehicle. So now that I have it hand tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the bolts onto the quick release by going in a star pattern. So I'll start at 12 o'clock, then I'll go to 6 o'clock, and then you can either go to the left or to the right. Now the reason why we go in a star pattern is it allows the wheel to be tightened at an even pressure. That way you make sure that the wheel is properly tightened all around, have the same force applied. And once you're done the star pattern once, you want to go ahead and go over it once again. Make sure it's tight. You don't have to over crank them because you might strip them. So of course, once you have it all tightened, make sure the whole wheel is properly spaced out, sitting flush against the wheel. So once you have the bolts tightened, the wheel is pretty much ready to go into the S2000. So now we're gonna go ahead and disassemble the OEM steering wheel from the car. So we will be working with the airbag system and also the electronics. So it's very important that we go ahead and disconnect the battery. So we will need a 10mm wrench for this. Unlatch the hood. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and loosen this 10mm nut, connect this terminal. I like to use a cloth just to protect it so that the terminal doesn't touch any parts of the metal body. So we do need to disconnect the main area from the quick release. So we're gonna go ahead and do that by pressing on the button, pulling the sleeve back. So we're gonna take this with us for the install. So once you remove those two screws, the airbag assembly can be removed. So pull it towards you and just be careful because it is connected behind still. There is a yellow connector on the left-hand side. So you want to pull that out towards the outside of the vehicle. And once you have it disconnected from the trim piece, what you want to do is there is a sleeve here. And what you want to do is you want to pull back on it, and that should disconnect the connector from the airbag, just like that. So feed the connector through, and you want to put this airbag in a safe place. So for now, I'm going to place it on the passenger ground. So now we have an open steering wheel ready to be disassembled. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the rest of the connectors. We have two more connectors to remove from the steering wheel. This is this one here and this one here. So this one is for the cruise control. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that out. Take the wiring out of the holders. Disconnect this. And the next one would be to take off the ground for the horn. So there is a push button here. You want to push that and pull down. That's disconnected. So again, you want to remove the wiring from the connectors that is situated on the steering wheel. Once you have that removed, pull that down so you have the bolt exposed. We're ready to remove this steering wheel from the steering wheel shaft. So we're going to need a 14mm hex to take off the bolt. Go ahead and do that. So once you have it completely off, you can actually go ahead and screw it back in a couple of threads, because in order to remove the steering wheel, you're going to have to give some force to it, because most of the time the steering wheel is stuck to the shaft. You can go ahead and rock it side to side, and it should pop out in place. Another reason why we put that bolt there is because you don't want to hit yourself in the face when you're pulling that steering wheel out. Once you have it loose, you can go ahead and disconnect that bolt and put it to the side. Now this is optional. You can go ahead and take a marker and mark the 12 o'clock position, both on the steering wheel and the shaft as well. This is just in case you decide to put the OEM steering wheel back onto the car at a later time. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyways, just so that I know where the 12 o'clock position is. Once you have that marked, you could go ahead and remove the steering wheel from the vehicle. So just slightly pull back, and you're gonna feed these wires through the center of the wheel. Then you will have the clock spring exposed. You wanna make sure that you don't touch this at all. You don't turn it. You just want to leave it in place, centered. Once you have this exposed, you can go ahead and grab your hub. Again, this has a 12 o'clock position, and how do you know that? Well, there is an indicator at the 12 o'clock position. So you can go ahead and thread the harnesses through the bottom. It's very important to get it aligned at the 12 o'clock position, because that is where you want the steering wheel to be, aligned and centered. So another way to figure out the alignment is there is a notch up here at the top of the plastic portion, and you can go ahead and line that 12 o'clock position on the hub as close as possible, of course. Once you have that, you can go ahead and push that in. So after you have the hub on, you can go ahead and screw the bolt back into place. Start it off by hand. Then once you're done, you can go ahead and torque it to spec. Now the OEM specification says 29 foot-pounds or 29 pound-feet. So go ahead and set up your torque wrench, and I already have it set So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the bolt. Once you hear the click, you're good to go, you're set. Now it's okay if the steering wheel shifted because you already have everything in the centered position anyways. So once you have that finished, we're gonna go ahead and put the SRS connector from the Works Bell kit. This pretty much just cancels the SRS light, the airbag light. So on this version of the S2000, the connector has 2 prongs. So we're gonna be using the green wiring. Some S2000s actually have a different style connector where it's a female side. So you're gonna go ahead and connect the 2 red wires that comes in the kit directly onto the small upper holes on the yellow connector. But since we have this version, we're going to go ahead and connect only the green wire. Doesn't matter which way it is. Once you have that in, you're set. So you can actually go ahead and put electrical tape on these connectors so that they don't move. I would like to connect these 2 together so that it is one solid wire and then just electrical tape around it. The reason why I like doing this is because it's a cleaner look and it keeps the wires tucked nicely so you're not pinching anything. So with this, it's a better and cleaner install. So I have it wrapped around the green connector onto the second wire. You can also add another layer here, which is what I'm going to do right now. I know you don't see this often, like you only have to remove the steering wheel when you need to remove it, but knowing that there's a clean job done is a nice feeling. So once you have that done and wrapped, you can go ahead and tuck the wires in like I did and out of place. So now we're left with 1 wire, which is the horn wire. What you will need is the other end of the quick release hub that we removed from the steering wheel earlier, as well as the shim piece that is included in the quick release hub. So what you want to do is connect the black ground wire to the shim and run the red wire through the center, something like this. So connect that and run this through the red. So once you have that, this piece is ready to be attached with the horn wire. So the red wire gets connected with the horn wire like so. Make sure you have a good connection. And once you have that connection in place, go ahead and tuck the red and brown wire as well as the black wire. And then you want to match the holes on the shim with the holes on the hub. Once you have that situated, again, you're gonna look for the 12 o'clock marker on the quick release piece and align that to the 12 o'clock position. Once you have that in, you want to screw in the silver screws that come with the quick release hub. So I'll start with the 12 o'clock position, hand tightening again. Then I'll go to the 6 o'clock position. Make sure that you're not pinching any wires. So once you have everything hand tightened, go ahead and tighten everything with a number 3 hex wrench working in a star pattern. So once you tighten everything once, go ahead and retighten everything again. So once you have the quick release backing plate installed onto the hub, you can go ahead and put this rubber finisher onto the hub itself. So you can push that on. I'll push it against the trim piece. Make sure it's flush. So once you have the finisher on, you can go ahead and put the final touch, which is the steering wheel itself. Nice, looks good. Since we have the wheel on the quick release, we can double check the steering wheel screws. These should be hand tightened as well. Be very careful not to scratch the wheel. All right, looks good. So once you have the wheel in place, we can now test the horn. So we can go ahead and reconnect the battery terminal and then see if it works. Put the negative terminal back onto the battery. All right, so let's see if the horn works. So we know that the horn works, but now we have to do a secondary check, which is to make sure that the SRS airbag light turns off when we start the vehicle. Looks good. So that is how you install an aftermarket steering wheel with a quick release and a short hub on an S2000. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. We do have a bunch of other install videos as well on our channel, so go ahead and take a look at those as well. Once again, this is Kodawari Dave. We're out.